Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're digging into the playbook for Super Bowl LX, and what it shows us is fascinating. This was way more than just a football game. We're talking about impossible odds, a huge cultural shift, and a really calculated bet on the future of sports.
All right, let's kick things off with just one number, but it tells you so much of the story. 80-1. Those were the insane preseason odds for the New England Patriots to even get a sniff of the championship.
So you gotta ask, how did this end up being the Super Bowl? You know, this wasn't just some fluke matchup. It's a huge sign that the NFL is actively, rewriting its own playbook for success, both on the field and off. So let's break it all down.
Okay, first things first. Let's talk about the matchup itself. We gotta look at the two teams who were battling it out in Santa Clara on February 8th, 2026, because this is really where that whole impossible story gets started.
Just look at this. This slide really shows you how nuts this pairing was. We're talking the most unlikely in 50 years. I mean, both the Patriots and the Seahawks bounced back from these identical, pretty terrible 4-13 records last season to finish this year at 14-3. That's a turnaround for the history books for both of them.
And right at the center of all of this, you had the perfect human drama. You had this classic youth versus redemption thing going on, New England's 23-year-old QB, Drake May, going up against Seattle's Sam Darnold, a guy who basically went from being called a draft bust to a championship contender. I mean, come on, that's a story that had everybody hooked all season long.
But look, the drama on the field, that was only half of it. The league also used all the entertainment to build a totally new cultural story. And it's one that looks way different from what we're used to.
Right away, the halftime show got nicknamed the Benito Bowl. And this wasn't just about picking a popular artist. No way. This was a huge strategic move by the NFL to really go after a global Spanish-speaking audience. I mean, he was the first ever solo Latino headliner.
And Bad Bunny himself, he really drove this point home. He didn't frame the performance as, look at me. He made it clear it was a historic moment for his entire culture, saying, "This is for my people. Go tell your grandmother we will be the Super Bowl halftime show."
And you know what happens next, right? The speculation about surprise guests just went wild. Prediction markets, like the ones on Kalshi, were just buzzing. They were giving guys like his frequent collaborators, Taney and Cardi B, super high odds of showing up during that all-Spanish set.
But the NFL was also playing it smart. They were really careful to balance this forward-looking global choice. So before all the reggaeton started, they brought in Bay Area heroes, Green Day, to kick things off. It was a nod to the league's deep roots in American rock. It was really a tale of two very different stages.
Okay, now let's follow the money. Let's talk about the commercials. Because, honestly, the ads tell us just as much about our culture and where it's all going as the game itself.
$7 million. Let that sink in. $7 million. That was the record-breaking price for just a single 30-second ad spot during the game. I mean, that's a huge, huge investment for any company.
And to make that kind of money worth it, brands were swinging for the fences with some really big themes. Yet Budweiser leaning hard into patriotism for the USA's 250th anniversary. Then you had Hims and Hers taking on social issues like healthcare inequality. And of course, a big dose of nostalgia, with Xfinity getting the original Jurassic Park cast back together.
All right, so here's the most important part. You have to understand that none of this was an accident. The halftime show, the broadcast, the messaging, it was all part of a very, very calculated business plan.
This all falls under the NFL's Por la Cultura strategy. And look, this isn't just about being inclusive for the sake of it. This is about economic survival, and it is all driven by some numbers that are just, well, they're staggering.
Okay, first up, get your head around this number. 39 million. That's how many Latino NFL fans there are just in the United States. That is a massive and super engaged audience. And now, think about the economic power that audience has. We're talking about a U.S. Latino GDP of $4.1 trillion. You can't ignore that kind of financial impact. And believe me, the NFL is paying very, very close attention.
In fact, one of the NFL's top execs, Marissa Solis, she put it about as bluntly as you can. Growth is mathematically impossible without Latinos. So this audience isn't just a part of the growth plan anymore, it is the growth plan.
And the league didn't just talk the talk. They backed this whole strategy up with real action. This Super Bowl had the widest Spanish-language broadcast distribution ever. They used dedicated broadcasts on networks like Fox Deportes and Telemundo, all to make sure they reached as many people as possible.
So what happens when you put it all together? You've got the impossible matchup, this big cultural pivot, and this razor-sharp business strategy. What does it all add up to?
What Super Bowl LX really shows us is a new formula for the league. It's this deliberate mix of pure, unpredictable sports, global music, and these big-budget, socially aware ads. This is the NFL basically showing us its game plan for the future.
And all of that leaves us with one final, really important question. Was this whole strategic pivot just a one-time experiment for a big anniversary? Or have we just seen the new permanent playbook for America's biggest sport?